Why does literature summon ghosts? Why has literature always been fascinated with ghosts, prophecies, shadows, and invisible forces? Why do writers repeatedly return to supernatural elements even in stories which are deeply rooted in human reality? The answer lies in what critics call supernatural machinery, the deliberate use of supernatural beings, omens, visions, dreams, witches, curses, and unexplained events to influence the plot and reveal hidden truths about human nature. Supernatural machinery is not merely used to frighten readers, it exposes fear, guilt, ambition, memory, loneliness, and the limits of logic itself. From the tragedies of William Shakespeare to the mysterious Bengali worlds of Rabindranath Tagore and Satyajit Ray, supernatural machinery has served different purposes in both the Eastern and the Western literature. The West often treats the supernatural as a disruptive force that threatens orders, while the East frequently sees it as a natural extension of human emotion, memory, and spiritual existence. In Western literature, supernatural machinery is often connected with chaos, guilt, and moral corruption. Shakespeare masterfully uses such elements in both Julius Caesar and Macbeth. In Julius Caesar, strange omens begin appearing before Caesar's assassination. Thunderstorms shake Rome violently. Lions roam through the streets, graves are said to be opened, men claim to see warriors fighting in the sky. These supernatural signs are not random decorations added for excitement. Shakespeare uses them to suggest that nature itself is disturbed by the political conspiracy forming against Caesar. The supernatural here functions as a warning mechanism. Rome is moving towards moral disorder, and the universe reflects that disturbance. Shakespeare creates the feeling that human crimes do not remain limited to human society alone. They disturb the balance of existence itself. After Caesar's death, his ghost appears before Brutus. The ghost does not attack physically, yet its presence destroys Brutus psychologically. The supernatural machinery becomes symbolic. Caesar's ghost represents guilt, fear, and the inevitability of punishment. Shakespeare intentionally leaves the audience uncertain whether the ghost is real or merely a hallucination born from Brutus's troubled conscience. In Macbeth, Shakespeare deepens the use of supernatural machinery even further. The three witches begin the tragedy. They predict Macbeth's rise to power and awaken the ambition hidden inside him. Importantly, the witches do not directly force Macbeth to commit the murder. Instead, they manipulate his imagination. This is what makes Shakespeare's supernatural machinery so powerful. The real horror does not come from magic itself, but from the darkness already present within human beings. The witches create a confusion between truth and illusion. Macbeth slowly loses the ability to distinguish between reality from fear. He begins seeing visions such as the floating dagger leading him towards Duncan's chamber. Later, Banquo's ghost appears during the royal feast, terrifying Macbeth publicly while remaining invisible to others. These supernatural visions expose Macbeth's psychological collapse. Shakespeare shows that unchecked ambition can transform the human mind into its own haunted prison. Thus, in Western literature, supernatural machinery often creates tension, fear, instability, and moral destruction. The Eastern literature, however, approaches the supernatural differently. In Indian and Bengali traditions, the supernatural is not always presented as evil or unnatural. Instead, it is frequently connected with memory, spirituality, emotional suffering, or the mysteries beyond human understanding. This philosophical difference comes from the ancient Indian thought, where the visible and the invisible worlds are often believed to coexist naturally. Ideas such as rebirth, karma, Maya, and spiritual continuity allow supernatural experiences to appear believable within the cultural imagination. The supernatural in the East therefore becomes quieter, more emotional, and more philosophical than purely terrifying. This can be clearly seen in the works of Rabindranath Tagore. In many of Tagore's supernatural stories, ghosts are not violent monsters seeking destruction. They are often lonely, tragic, or symbolic figures connected with human emotions. Tagore's supernatural world usually emerges through silence, deserted places, fading memories, or emotional isolation. His stories create mystery, not through sudden horror, but through atmosphere and psychological depth. The supernatural often becomes a mirror reflecting the loneliness and incompleteness of human existence. Unlike Shakespeare's witches and storms, Tagore's supernatural machinery invites reflection rather than panic. The reader is left wondering whether the supernatural event truly occurred or whether it emerged from the emotional condition of the characters themselves. Satyajit Ray brought a modern dimension to supernatural storytelling. Ray combined Bengali literary tradition with scientific curiosity and rational thinking. As a result, his supernatural stories often exist in a fascinating space between logic and mystery. In Indigo, Ray creates an atmosphere where reality gradually becomes uncertain. The supernatural is not presented openly through ghosts or magical creatures. Instead, Ray slowly builds unease through suggestion, memory, isolation, and unexplained events. The reader constantly asks, is something truly supernatural occurring, or is the human mind creating illusions out of fear and imagination? This uncertainty becomes Ray's greatest literary technique. His supernatural machinery does not force readers to abandon logic completely. Instead, it challenges the limit of logic itself. Similarly, in The Cookie Lady by Philip Dick, the supernatural emerges through psychological fear and hidden horror. The old lady in the story appears harmless initially. Similarly, in The Cookie Lady, the supernatural emerges through psychological fear and hidden horror. The old woman in the story appears harmless initially, yet slowly becomes deeply unsettling. Her strange behavior and mysterious connection with the child Babur create an atmosphere of invisible danger. The story uses supernatural machinery to explore exploitation, fear, and hidden evil beneath ordinary appearances. Unlike traditional ghost stories filled with visible monsters, the Cookie Lady creates terror through emotional discomfort and uncertainty. Both Satyajit Ray and Philip Dick show that modern supernatural literature often depends less on physical horror and more on psychological disturbance. The fear grows gradually inside the reader's mind. Now, the major difference between Eastern and Western supernatural machinery lies in their philosophical foundations. The Western literature often treats the supernatural as an invasion into the normal reality. Ghosts, witches, and prophecies disrupt the modern order and threaten human stability. Supernatural forces are frequently connected with sin, punishment, or moral collapse. The Eastern literature, however, often treats the supernatural as a part of existence itself. Spirits and unexplained events may reveal emotional truths rather than simply cause destruction. The supernatural becomes connected with memory, philosophy, karma, or spiritual continuity. In the West, the supernatural asks, what happens when evil enters human life? In the East, the supernatural asks, what realities exist beyond ordinary human perception? This difference explains why Shakespeare's supernatural world feels violent and chaotic while Tagore and Ray create quieter and more reflective mysteries. Supernatural machinery continues to survive in literature because human beings remain surrounded by unanswered questions. Science may explain the external world, but literature explores the hidden fears and desires inside the human mind. Ghosts in literature are really just ghosts. Sometimes they are guilt returning after a crime. Sometimes they are loneliness refusing to disappear. Sometimes they represent suppressed memories or hidden ambition. Shakespeare uses supernatural machinery to expose moral corruption and psychological destruction. Tagore transformed it into a medium of emotional and philosophical reflection. Satyajit Ray modernized it by placing mystery beside rational thought, allowing readers to remain suspended between belief and doubt. Thus, supernatural machinery is not merely about spirits and darkness. It is about humanity's attempt to understand the invisible dimensions of existence, the fears, emotions, mysteries that logic alone cannot fully explain. Thank you for listening to us. I hope this article seemed meaningful to you. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting videos.